Chapter 5. A jacket smelled of tobacco. The rain outside the workshop window had turned into a solid wall of ice. The water pounded the tin canopy with a dry, steady crackling sound, like the white noise of a switched-off television. I sat on the floor, my back against the base of the wooden podium. Only a single dim, incandescent light bulb glowed in the darkness above the sink. The air smelled of wet plaster, dry brushes, and stale iced tea. A knock on the door rang out sharply. 3 quick, heavy blows that shook the old hinges. I shuddered, drawing my legs up. "Leah, open up." The voice behind the door was muffled, wet, but unmistakable. "Mark." I didn't move. "Go away," I shouted into the darkness. My voice was hoarse. "Go away, Mark. I won't take anything from you. Your lawyers can sleep soundly." There was a pause behind the door. Then another blow, this time from a shoulder. The latch popped out of the old wooden frame with a crunch, and the door swung open. Mark stepped into the workshop, coatless, in a soaking wet jacket, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. He smelled of wet wool, gasoline, and cold rain. In his hand, he clutched a crumpled, folded sheet of paper. "Are you completely crazy?" I whispered, getting up from the floor and retreating to the sink. "Why did you come? To call the police?" Mark didn't answer. He was breathing heavily, looking around the workshop, as if he were there for the first time. His gaze darted from corner to corner, the busts arranged, the unwashed mug, the shelves, and then stopped on the old sofa. There, on the dented armrest, lay a dark leather jacket. Mark slowly approached the sofa. He reached out and touched the collar with his fingertips. He froze. "It's his," he said quietly. It wasn't a question. I gripped the edge of the sink. "Leave it. It's David's. He forgot it here." "Forgot?" Mark turned to me abruptly. His eyes were no longer icy, indifferent. A wild, unbearable pain beat there. 3 days before the accident. That night, when he disappeared for 4 hours and didn't answer my calls. "Stop it," I screamed, covering my ears. "Why are you tormenting me? I told you the truth. We were together 3 days after the funeral. You came to me yourself. You yourself." "I took a test, Leah," Mark interrupted. His voice dropped to a whisper, but in the silence of the workshop, it rang out like a gunshot. I froze. My hands slowly dropped. "What?" Mark took a step toward me and placed the same sheet of paper on the clay-wet table. "I secretly took your DNA profile from the glass you drank from at my house. I wanted a document that would say excluded. I wanted to forget your name." "And did you get it?" I asked defiantly, but my lips trembled. "Got your 0? "No," Mark shook his head. "Next to my name, it says, not father. But underneath, the geneticist wrote something else." He paused. "The child has an abnormally high correlation of markers in the male line. This child is my nephew. He has a 50% match with me. That's only possible in one case, if his father is my biological brother." The words hung in the air. Outside, the rain fell monotonously, trickling down the glass in steady streams. I looked at Mark, the color slowly draining from my face. "No," I muttered. "No, Mark. According to the timeline, I was counting. You and I were 3 days after the cemetery, and with him, it was right before ovulation, Leah," Mark said, with dry lips, looking me straight in the eyes. "Physiology can't sympathize with your calculations. You were in shock. You were drunk. You were trying to numb the pain. But the paper doesn't lie." I swayed. My legs felt like jelly. All these weeks, I'd been building a fragile, saving illusion inside myself. The father was Mark, a cold but living man for whom the remnants of my old love still glimmered. To admit that the child was David's was to admit the full horror of that night when a broken, grief-stricken boy sobbed on my chest a few hours before his death. The worst lies are the ones you make up yourself, just to keep from going crazy with grief. I slid down the edge of the sink to the floor, covered my face with my hands, and began to sob, heavily, silently, my whole body shaking. Mark didn't come over. He stood 2 steps away, looking at my bent back, and his own shoulders slumped. All his toughness, all his armor as the owner of a financial empire, crumbled to dust. "He came to you because he couldn't go home," Mark said quietly, looking at David's jacket. "We had a fight an hour before. I told him he was a loser who only knew how to spend my money." I slowly raised my tear-stained face. Mark lowered his head. A wet streak glistened on his cheek. "And it wasn't water from the street. He left you and got behind the wheel," Mark whispered. and I thought I'd lost him forever. He slowly sank onto the wooden stool opposite me and rested his forehead on dry, trembling fingers. But he left you. He looked up, and this child,